US federal debt is at the highest levels ever. It's growing like wildfire. They can't service it. This is the worst economy I've ever seen. Hey, welcome all to episode 15 of Runtime Reverie. We're here today with Craig and Pat, and we're going to be talking about the latest news and topics and tech and business, and see where the conversation takes us. So where should we start, boys? I think we talk about all this, all these sort of bankruptcies and financial issues that are going on.
Timely. Like we went through a round of layoffs at work, 185 people out because of interest rates primarily, eating away all previous cost savings and things. And it's a pretty harsh set when you turn up to work and, most of your mates are gone, and,
Right.
you find out how to, you do the rounds, try and find a few people, a few jobs, which always works. It's always a nice thing to try and do and look after them. But there's some good people. If anyone knows of a spot, you want a good programmer, a great design team, I got a lot of people.
There was a website a year or two ago in the midst of COVID layoffs that were doing really well, and it basically listed all the companies in tech that are hiring.
Yeah.
And I think it was just like an Airtable table. It was very freeform, and everyone could just look and post and help each other out.
Yeah, because most of those things it was about 20% sort of, most of all the tech market sort of shrank. And like the stats of when you lose that many people, of how many people found jobs within a certain time frame, it was like above the 90% within the 3 months. So within 3 months, basically everyone had been rehired all over again, absorbed through into other positions and stuff. So, they get their severance, but they get a 3 month severance, right? Which seems generous, but when you take into consideration that it will take 3 months to find another job, you basically cut out even. Right?
Also, it's happening in November, and nothing's going to happen in December. So
it makes it harder. Yeah.
There might not be a job coming till January.
Yeah.
It's
going to be a lot of...
I think it'll be particularly difficult for anyone who's there on a work visa or something, where they...
I shouldn't joke about this, but there's going to be a lot of Santa Clauses in the mall this year, I think.
Yeah.
Hey, no, I want to be Santa Claus. No, I want to be Santa Claus. No, I want to be Santa Claus.
Do you remember that episode of Seinfeld where Kramer plays Santa Claus with his friend?
I've never really been into Seinfeld.
My God, you need to watch more Seinfeld.
Oh, hang on. I might say you'd be really into Seinfeld if you watched Seinfeld when it first came out, but some of them don't travel the test of time too well. Some are timeless, some are not as good as they were.
Disagree. It's all gold. But hey, so talk about sort of layoffs and investments and whatnot. The big news this week was WeWork, right? So I've got the numbers here. They were once valued at, guess how many billions of dollars WeWork was valued at once?
70 billion or 60 something billion?
$47 billion by private investors, including SoftBank.
And now approximately zero.
No. Well, no, more than that. Then when it went public, it went from 47 billion to 9 billion. Guess what it was worth on Friday? 45 million. So it went from 47 billion to 9 billion to 45 million. Now bankrupt. They're filing for Chapter 11. They're out of the game. Shares closed at 84 cents a piece. As a number here, they're basically wrecked. They're totally gone, and someone's going to get a whole bunch of property in a fire sale.
Property, because often they were taking out big leases on property, basically a subleasing sort of scheme.
They'll get the property, but they'll get the lease, and it'll be a renovated space, and they'll be able to negotiate like hell with whoever.
I think Adam Newman, the CEO, whatever his name was, he was buying a lot of property for himself. I think he's pretty dodgy.
Yeah, it didn't help. But also, it's going to be not as easy to offload some of that stuff. I know in the CBD of Melbourne, right, there is commercial property is vacant everywhere. The nature of work has changed, right? So a lot of people aren't coming back. So there's a lot of big companies with a lot of floor space that they would love to get rid of, but they get rid of it to who? No one else wants it.
My friend's business just leased a floor of a nice building on Collins Street right here in Melbourne. Best street in town. A whole floor, $10,000, not per month, for the whole year.
No way. What? Really?
For the whole year, $10,000.
That's cheaper than rent.
It's incredibly cheap.
What? How can
And when you look around, the rest is all empty. It's all
That's
empty.
awesome.
There's nobody in town. There's nobody in town. Anecdotally, I went out Saturday evening to just go see what's happening with nightlife. Nobody's out. Everything closes by 10:30. It's just all closed.
Really? Bloody hell.
Yeah. The cities, just because no one's going out anymore, and lots of people have moved away from cities, and it's just not what it used to be because people are not going out anymore.
Because it came back post-COVID, but like it was feeling, I don't know, 6-12 months ago, it's feeling more alive, but you're saying it's
a little bit, but you
really
go to the city late in the evening when this is a mega city. It used to have a lot of activity, a lot of energy. It's just not there anymore.
I actually think if you go on you go on your Thursdays or Friday nights, right? So people come into the city. So basically the social side of life is actually still really, really vibrant. So, like my son works in the restaurants. They're doing, a lot of covers through, the social times, right? It's the lunch during work hours that's down, right? So they don't get a lot through that. So the good restaurants and stuff do all right. The ones, that aren't your top line ones, your non-going out, they're struggling a lot harder. But here's the dichotomy for me, right? WeWork, and the whole thing was that a lot of this sort of shared sort of space where you just rent a space for hours, days, and everything is, dropped post-COVID, and that it wasn't really that valuable. But we go to the hub, right, which is the one in Melbourne. That's actually quite a vibrant little community, right? There's still lots of people who go there. Like, it could be a lot busier. I'm not 100% sure, but WeWork was always dead as, right? So it actually couldn't compete against the other smaller branded places. Like, WeWork was the big brand compared to everyone else. Everyone had heard of WeWork, especially with the target demographic of tech people and everything, yet still couldn't attract them, where these other little places actually did all right.
Yeah, maybe. And we'll see what happens to the little ones like the hub. I hope they do okay, but they're still going to have a massive, huge lease. It's going to be expensive, and a few people cancel, and it's going to be rough for them.
Well, they keep opening up new locations. They're not going backwards.
Are they?
Yeah.
How many do they have now?
About 7-ish, I think.
The hub.
WeWork had 777 locations.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
One of which wasn't sold. Do you remember, Pat? We tried to find it.
Yeah.
And we couldn't even find the damn thing because it was, I think, shut down already.
It had 770, but 760 of them weren't used, really.
There'll be some in there for sure that will be still viable working ones because they're in a good spot or they had a good community, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, the only people who would want to take over those sorts of things are your trendier sort of more modernish companies who want that kind of fit out and that kind of...
No, here's what you do.
Have them, and it's going to be hard.
If you had the money, you'd take over and you'd say, hey, look, I've got this great fitted out, amazing office now. But hey, landlord, I'm not going to pay you what the previous lease was. I'm going to pay you 1/10 of it.
Yeah.
And I think you'd have a lot of bargaining power. So I think someone's going to make out pretty well there.
The WeWork too. That's actually like a well-run company.
Yeah, second or third iteration. I heard this little one on the All In. One of the guys was talking about it. They're saying that the third owners of a business typically are the ones that make money.
Yeah, right.
The first owner somehow screws up. The second one buys it in a fire sale, but also makes some mistakes. The third one then has figured it out and they make some money.
It's interesting because that goes against the Japanese philosophy of the third child always destroys a family business.
This is what people don't realize about bankruptcy. Bankruptcy doesn't mean you've destroyed the assets or lost the value. We're talking about WeWork, but the same thing could happen to an airline. Airline goes bankrupt. It's not the end of the world. The planes don't disappear tomorrow. The planes are still there. The office building is still there. It's just that business, the way it was running, didn't work. So the investors get wiped out. Whoever invested in that thing and they thought that it was worth 47 billion, those people get wiped out. But somebody else is going to get the plane or get the building and do something with it.
Virgin Australia was that classic example of going, into a bankruptcy, scenario, reinventing, coming out. It's doing quite good now for an airline.
Yeah, right.
For the one that's not the national carrier as well, who
Yeah.
doesn't get
If
massive
only that happened
handouts.
to the national carrier and all that got wiped out, and they, new people,
Yeah, they got a bit of help there. Good timing.
bit of help. Yeah, let's call it that. Hey, the next topic. Did you see what happened to the FTX case with Sam Bankman-Fried?
Yeah, he's been arrested.
Not
Life.
only did he get arrested, his trial happened, and it finished this last week.
Well, yeah, whatever. Yeah,
It
Life
only
in
went
jail.
long enough for them to actually get a free lunch, didn't it?
Hey, the jury, you know how they spend all these days deliberating once the evidence is. Do you know how long they deliberated? 5 hours. They deliberated for 5 hours, then found him guilty of all charges. Done. Figure out how, what his sentence is. Like
Were
how
they
many
all-
years?
Were they all amateur crypto investors? Is that why they were that quick?
I don't know. I don't know, but
They're surely going to turn, because what's his name wrote a book who did The Big Short. They're surely going to turn this into a Big Short, right?
yeah,
Like in
sure.
3 years.
There'll be a book, there'll be a story, there'll be a movie about this, because this is the biggest fraud case ever. By far, numerically, it's just huge. What I found funny though, there's it's sort of related. So that how the SEC has this thing about crypto and how they're trying to, sort of police and monitor all these crypto companies like FTX. Did you know that the SEC has a rule that you cannot work for the SEC if you own any crypto?
Oh,
So yeah. So they can't actually hire anyone that has any crypto. So they can't notionally hire anyone who has any knowledge of crypto.
So do they not hire anyone who also has money? It's a weird thing, right?
Yeah, like do they have something that says you can't work here if you have any stocks? Yeah, if you have any stocks, if you have a retirement account or a 401k or whatever, you can't work here. Do they do that? I doubt it.
I think they should. I don't know. I reckon if you did work for the SEC and you had stocks, you should be forced to sell them. I'd be okay with that.
No, because everyone has stocks in their retirement account. You should be forced to declare them, so that any sort of a prejudice or whatever you might have or bias is very, very open, and everyone can see what you're holding. That's fine. And in fact, many roles are like that, where you have to declare, "Hey, I have this thing," just so everyone knows. But everyone's got stock. You buy an index fund somewhere in your retirement account, you have stock. You probably have
Conflict of interest is a sort of a well-worn path, right? Where problems happen when people are, and you can see they're a bit dodgy, especially with politicians, having shares and holdings in certain things, or going to a job after their term, being promised something that they were going to rule on. But, you should, I think, you have recusal of, like if I'm looking after a particular case or something and you are a shareholder, you are out. You can't do that.
Yeah. Do politicians have to declare if they have any shares?
It depends on which country. I know with Australia, you definitely do.
Really? Okay. That's good. I think that stuff should absolutely be declared. And same with crypto. If you hold crypto and you're working on some anti-crypto regulation, you should declare what you have. So that everyone knows.
The former president of the United States is still waiting for his investigations to clear before he can release his tax returns from the previous elections.
I haven't been following that case. Are you guys following it?
A little bit, yeah.
What's happening? What are they charging him with?
Hang on, which case?
Yeah, there's multiple.
Are there multiple?
I think he's got 5 concurrent ones at the moment.
Yeah.
At last count. He's already guilty of the property one where he overinflated the value of the property assets in New York.
Yeah, but everyone in New York overinflated the value of
there's overinflated, and then there's the overinflated to actually get financial advantage through deception, which is he's already been found guilty of that. They're just going through the trial to work out the magnitude of the fine, which that's the only case he turns up to. Being thrown in jail, overthrowing a country, don't bother turning up that. If it was money, he was there.
Hold on, he's in jail?
No, it's a possibility in the other court cases, but not this one.
Right.
This one is civil only, and but he's keen because it's actually his hurts right at his ego. Money.
This is going to be such a entertaining next US election, I think.
It's not entertaining at all. It's going to be
Well,
awful.
in a very sad way.
No, it's,
I saw one thing the other day where he's actually leading the polls.
Yeah.
yeah, he is fucking nuts.
But the elections are like a year away, right? At least in
Yeah.
Australia, going, all right, election, 30 days time, done.
Yeah. But they start 2 years before the election.
But even worse, once they've elected someone, there's a transition period that goes on for many, many months. Whereas in Australia, it's like, you're out that night. Next
Yeah,
week,
that's right.
You're
all
in
right,
tomorrow.
and you've got 2 weeks to move your stuff out. The removalists are coming your way. They're pre-booked.
They need to give them time so you can, when you do the transition, so you can, lynch your vice president. You've got to give them time.
No, but the whole concept of a transition team is something that we don't have. Like, you just go to the new team.
I don't even know that was a thing. They have transition teams.
Teams, yeah, big
Yeah.
one. Yeah, it's a whole process and procedure, but I think it's a bit like for us, our politicians are often quite useless. That we had like that drawn election one time where it took many months to sort out. Country went on as normal because it's all run by bureaucrats very well, smooth. Most of the things that the politicians do don't have much impact on the day-to-day sort of things.
That's one thing in Australia I really appreciate. I see being different. It just things carry on. There's very little that politics, impacts you in the day-to-day. Usually, you can just not pay too much attention. In the US, it's just everywhere.
It's a blood sport there. It is really rough. Although I do appreciate the New Zealand political scene more. It's just it's just so much sweeter and nicer. Yeah. And their ads are all homemade, which is great to watch.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, what else? What's next on the docket? What else do we have to talk about?
I don't know. There's a big conversation. Our prime minister went to China to try and get trade going again. So China had a couple of years ago stopped certain things from being imported from Australia. And
didn't that all go well? I read some headlines saying that it's all fixed and they're friends again.
Yeah.
There's no fixed, is there? It's just the we need you, you need us kind of scenario. The strategy was we will use our economic might, we'll smash Australia into submission and it will understand who its new masters are. And it went absolutely backwards because it failed on basic economic principles of supply and demand, right? So if you don't buy a certain thing and you own a large chunk of that market and you decide you're not paying for it anymore, then that floods the rest of the market, which brings down all the prices everywhere else, right? And so your price of your commodity has now just dropped in value. So, and if your commodity is of good quality and better than the others, and the others are staying the same and yours drops down cheaper, eventually they're all going to buy yours. So they bought all the Australian commodities throughout the rest of the markets. So then all that was left to buy was either the really expensive second-rate stuff, right, which they tried to consume up, but then they had to go through middlemen to go and buy the Australian stuff as well. So they were just basically shot themselves in the foot. And so their economy suffered greatly trying to harm someone else.
Their economy's screwed independently of. We're just such a small.
No, we're a big part of it. We're a massive part of it. They had to shut down power stations for their manufacturing and all of those sorts of things because they didn't have enough coal to run them. But when they said, oh, look, all fair, all done, sorted now, we're willing to buy your stuff now. Can you now sell it to us? You go, we signed new contracts, guys. It's being sold elsewhere. So now it's a longer term effect for those sorts of things. And it didn't work the way they want. They thought, because China is different to Australia. Australia, economics and politics are largely separate. Like obviously politics is all driven by economics and the perception of it, but you'll find a politician, if it's good economic news, it's all of their responsibility. If it's bad, it's market forces, right? It's not anything to do with them. But most of the time, it doesn't matter what they do. It just happens that way. Whereas China owning a business is a state-controlled activity, and you can't get really good at it because then you've got too much power, and that's not good. You can't be more powerful than the state-run enterprises. So it's just a different mechanism.
They run the whole country as a business. That's the whole viewpoint, right?
Yeah.
naive understanding. Wasn't there also a big property company in China that was
Massive
doing
property companies.
Yeah, they're all in trouble.
Yeah, they were having issues because, again, they had the same problem everyone else has. Here's a whole bunch of empty buildings that we've got.
Yeah, I don't understand the economic forces behind what drove them, or whether they were subsidies or anything else to just keep pushing things through. But all I remember is watching these videos of them demolishing three-quarter built towers, and not just one or two, like whole cities, which is just absolutely massive. They go, well, they just can't have it there and complete it. They've just got to blow them up. I don't know what scenario would lead that to happen, but
why not just leave it? Why are they breaking things?
I don't know. It's foreign to me.
Oh my god, crazy. But yeah. Look, I think that the next while for the market in general, the economy in general, but particularly in tech businesses, I think is going to be rough. I think the next 6 months is going to be very, very rough. All these commercial property problems, all these banking problems with all these bad debts and overinflated property prices, they are going to affect every business. And tech's going to be just as affected because they're the ones with all these big overinflated values.
Well, you've got a lot of global instability as well, right? So you've still got Ukraine and Russia causing a lot of troubles, and then you've got the crazy Middle East scenarios of what's going on in there. But then you've got the US being extra stressed, helping those things out, right? Just trying to supply goods to these people. It's, if those things went away, the US economy would pick up dramatically. Its focus would be better.
It's going pretty well at the moment.
It's doing pretty good, but it's, from my external...
what's doing good? The US economy? I beg to disagree.
Yeah, I think it's doing better than what people do, but a lot of economics isn't actually on raw numbers. It's on people's emotions, right? It's, if they feel it is not there, the sentiment is not there, then it doesn't perform well, right?
It's performing well at all. The US consumer has the most debt it's ever had. US federal debt is at the highest levels ever. It's growing like wildfire. They can't service it. This is the worst economy I've ever seen.
Well, I can't remember when so many banks went up, but that might be just my naivety of not knowing, banking history in the US very well. But there's been a lot of closures of the regional banks and things that seem to happen quite on a regular basis. But
on the tech side, I think I've sort of just decided I haven't liked the last decade of tech. It's just gone for my liking, it's just gone too big, too successful, too popular, just a lot of too greedy, just a lot of and just a lot of not very good businesses. If you just actually look at them, what they're doing, it's all these SaaS companies selling to other SaaS companies selling to other companies and they're all these overinflated prices. And so I would love a reset of a lot of that stuff. I'm not saying I hate necessarily all SaaS. I actually quite like SaaS, but it's just gotten too fat. It's just too...
That's going to happen. If interest rates go back to reasonable levels and they stay there long enough, the market will resolve all that.
Yeah.
All the bad businesses that weren't profitable, that couldn't function, they will eventually have to see the light.
And software, there's always this talk about software eating the world, but it's software, if you just think about it, it's really a commodity. Why is it worth so much? It shouldn't actually, it should be one of the cheapest things around, I think. It should be, if you want to make a website or whatever, that should be the cheapest thing to do, but it's so expensive nowadays.
But it's not, because the most expensive thing in most production of anything at all is generally labor. And software itself is a labor-based business, right? So its expenses are always going to be quite high.
But why is it cost so much to make a basic website? Why does it cost so much? It's just, I find it ridiculous.
The answer is simple.
Pay my wage.
JavaScript. I love it.
JavaScript. I love it. No, I don't recommend it.
The thing with the AI taking everyone's jobs, I think part of that is not that the AI is super smart. It's the actual work is not that hard. It shouldn't be that hard to basically plug a few things
we've
together.
Added a lot of complexity.
Yeah.
And we've made things far more complicated than what you tweeted it perfectly the other day, right? What is it? We download some HTML, it tells us to download some JavaScript. that then goes and fetches more JavaScript and more HTML. It's just bananas.
Yeah.
Absolute bananas.
Yeah, no, I disagree with both of you, right? Because I've lived long enough through, the original, web where it was very simple and everything else. What you do now is fundamentally brilliant in comparison, right? So it's just an evolution of a whole technology scene, right? So if you go with the dot-com bubble, it was like just this huge rush, stupid money going in,
Yeah.
every idea, and that was an unsustainable one, and it busted down. But it slowly crept up again, and you will end up with a lot of these businesses all competing, of which the best ones will survive, the others will die, right? What, especially with things like we would have like platform lock-ins, right? Twitter was unsurmountable, right? It had so many people, and it was an absolute lock. You can see that cracking open now. The tech scene as it is now, and what will be in 10 years, will be totally different. It will be complicated. There will be complicated ideas. It will be.
This is so much blatant. Like, you just, like, I'm obviously just making this up, but like I've seen in companies where they've got a design system. I actually quite like design systems. It's a good way to improve accessibility and, to have some sort of internal API. But if you just like look at them like on paper, it's like, how much is this design system costing to maintain? Like $1 million a year. And it's like, what value do you get out of it? Well, okay, our buttons are our brand color. It's like, and our calendar is the one that the developers really wanted. It's like, this stuff should be really just commodities. Like, why does it cost?
I think you touched on one thing, right? Where is the models of like the last decade or more were based upon if you can put out more features and you can get more things done and get a larger scale by having lots more people, right?
Yeah.
And the general skills of those people become very diverse. You'll have some really good ones. You'll have a lot in the middle, and then you'll have your stragglers who are just filling up. But you just keep filling those things up because they can still do a feature or two and get them out, right? And contribute to it. So the more you've got, the more features, the more you can dominate.
Yeah.
I don't think that is sustainable, right?
No.
Like that is a bit intellectually bankrupt. I think you can do a lot more with a lot less and actually really tight focus on those sorts of things.
Exactly, because the apps end up worse. That you keep adding more features, and the thing just gets really complicated, and then it sort of needs to be disrupted by someone with a far simpler feature set that sort of rethought the problem a bit. And so, you're just going to throw that whole thing, that whole other business away?
I think that's the beauty of the tech market, right? Not if
so
you can
wasteful.
if you can do something with a lot less and be more nimble and more agile and getting your focus right, you will disrupt a very large incumbent who has built on that slowness but large scale, right? So they get better by doing just a small improvement across a very large customer base. But if you are actually sort of a bit more nimble, you have to take larger risks. You have to do something great in order to bust in order to just survive. That's the good thing. You do a few of those, some of them will take hold.
Well, that's the key thing. It's like almost like these big companies with lots of devs. It's like they don't have to take any risks. It's almost like I kind of find maybe they're shooting themselves in the foot by just keep adding features, making the app more complicated. But they can succeed by doing that. And, they can succeed by having these huge teams that cost a lot. And so I wonder if that changes where that...
Your tech isn't everything, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you can deliver a website nice and fast and quick and simple and, embrace the basics does not guarantee success. Like I always look at Craigslist as a great example of a very simple site. Everyone used it and was eaten by every other single person that was spin off, right? From real estate, car classified, all of those sort of things. There's all specialist sites that just do it just so much better that it was just eaten alive at its very core because it just didn't get its focus right.
I think that's just the evolution of that.
I think it is too, yeah.
I agree with you there, and that's perfectly fine. And it's going to keep evolving. With the way those businesses evolve and that service sort of sector evolves is sort of independent of how tech is evolving. I think that's some of the objection there you might have, Pat, and I tend to agree with it. Just the complexity in tech that's, made it so difficult to do anything.
Complexity in tech and complexity in product. I think just a lot of products today, they're just too complicated. It's almost like the big team.
A lot of the products actually look very similar. All right,
but it's almost like that big. it's almost like the big team needs to have the big product to justify why they've got the big team, and the big product justifies having the big team, and they can be this huge dinosaur, and they're not going to fail because they've reached a level of success and they can sort of bat out competition. But yeah, I don't think big products necessarily a good playbook.
Yeah, look, I don't think it's necessarily big. I think it's the underlying principles of what you're doing there. Like, I've worked at places where it's got to be professional, right? And their concept of professional is boring, all right? Whereas actually you look at something like Discord's release notes. Whoever writes those, shout out to you, they're bloody hilarious. You know, like I remember reading release notes which said, look, it was late, it was a Friday, we released things, let's never speak of it again. You know, you just relate and you go, yeah, good one, fellas, and off you go. Or like, I don't know if you saw Upbank's latest update where they basically got a financial health dashboard, but it's in a Winamp skin. Try and do that in any other bank.
Oh, I loved Winamp. That was great.
That requires courage, boldness, and confidence to fail, right? That wanting to just take risks and being okay with failing sometimes is what sets out really great things from really just everything looks the same and it's a bit boring tech. You know, complicated and boring.
Awesome.
Two horrible combos.
Let's wrap. Any interesting tools or software things that we've found this last week, or non-software random things?
I found none because I got stuck on Bodies on Netflix.
What is that?
Time traveling detective thing. It was originally a comedy of some sort, but it's actually exceptional. Like really, really good.
Right.
Cool.
Okay.
You love it, I mean. I know, you love a good detective show.
I love them.
I know you love a good English detective show. It's also in English.
Yeah, like Columbo is still one of my favorite shows.
And if you had Columbo with time traveling,
Oh,
you're all in.
couldn't get better. What's it called?
Bodies.
Bodies. Okay. We'll have to check that out. Pat, anything interesting?
Probably. I can't.
Or even just a hot take. Give us a hot take for the week. Just something super controversial.
I can't think of anything.
I mean, apart from the fact he hates all current technology.
No, I don't hate all current technology.
Maximum cynical? Have you like?
No, I think you misunderstand. I don't hate all technology. I just hark for simpler days.
Awesome. Well, this has been a great conversation. Let's wrap it here, and I'll see you all next week. Although I'm out of town next week, so you have to manage without me.
Sure, we'll find a way.
Yeah. I'm sure it's possible.
Yeah.
That was awesome. We'll catch you all next time.